Shalom Yasharala, peace Israel. First and foremost, I want to send all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem, Wakah, Kadash, Barakatah. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of Israel. This is your boy Azar coming at you with another lesson from the GMS Miami camp. And today I want to go over, today's subject is going to be King Solomon asked for wisdom. King Solomon asked for wisdom. Okay. I'm going to start at First Kings 2nd chapter and the 3rd verse. Okay. Here we have King David talking to King Solomon. Telling King Solomon to keep the laws and statutes and commandments. But I'm gonna start at First Kings chapter 2 and go down all the way to Lord willing verse 4. Okay. Now in the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore shew thyself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord thy power, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments, and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all thou doest, and whatsoever thou turnest thyself. Verse 4, that the Lord may continue his word which spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. Okay. Now King David was, giving King Solomon a pep talk about how to rule the nation of Israel. Okay. And verse 3 really stood out. And keep the charge of the Lord thy power, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that they mayest prosper in all that thou doest, Salaki, and whatsoever thou turnest thyself. Yo, man, just imagine, man, a young king like King Solomon being passed on. The King David passed on the responsibility of the king being king to King Solomon. Guess how much? Just imagine how much pressure that was, man. But verse 3 was like a little pep talk. Now, when I was reading verse 3, 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 3, I can just imagine King Solomon just being overwhelmed on how to rule, because he had a big responsibility, man. It said, to keep the statutes and the Most High's commandments and his judgments and his testimony, as it is written in the law of Moses. And the law of Moses is deep, man. It's real deep. And as a young king, man, King Solomon must have felt that pressure. But at the same time, King David put that seed in King Solomon. Okay, all right. He put that seed in King Solomon. And it's amazing, man, because I'm thinking about this, and it's like, wow, a young king, man, has this responsibility, man, to make sure that the children of Israel honor the laws and statutes and commandments that that was written in the law of Moses, man. That's a big responsibility, man, for real. All right. Verse 4 says, that the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee a man on the throne of Israel. Okay. So King Solomon, man, had a responsibility, but King David planted that seed in him, man. He said, look, make sure these people honor the laws and statutes and commandments and the judgments and the testimonies that were written of the law of Moses. You know? All right, let's go to let me see here. Let's go to First Kings 2nd chapter, starting at verse 7. I mean, 2nd Kings. No. Was it second? 1 second, Akim. Okay, Slaki Akim. It was 2nd Kings 3rd chapter, starting at verse 7. Okay. And now, O my Lord, thy power, thou hast made thy servant king instead of my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. And see, hey man, King Solomon was humble, man. He was a king, and he said, thou hast made thy servant king. You know, that's humility, being very humble right there. You know, let me read it again. Verse 7. 1 Kings 3rd chapter 7th verse. And now, O Lord, my power, thou hast made thy servant king instead of my father, instead of David my father. I am not but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. You know. So he was praying to the Most High. Well, he was saying to the Most High, he needs help. He needs help. Basically, he says, I know not how to go out or come in. I don't know what to do. Okay. And verse 8, and thy servant is in the midst of thy people. Again, he's referring to himself as a servant. Okay. So he's just saying he's a servant, man. He's pleasing the Most High already by saying that he's a servant. Okay, even though he was a king, King David made him king over, over the land. But when he prayed to Yahweh, thy power, he said, and thou servant is in the midst of thy people. Let me continue to read verse 8. I'm gonna start at the top of verse 8. 1 King 3rd chapter, starting at verse 8. And thou servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Verse 9. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? Okay. Verse 10. This speech pleased the Lord thy power, that King Solomon had asked. So, hey man, that pleased the Most High. Okay, that pleased the Most High. King Solomon asked for an understanding heart to judge thy people. Okay, that he may discern between good and bad. Okay, and that's what we have to do. We have to ask the Most High for a discerning heart. Okay, to know what's good and to know what's bad, and to know how to judge. Okay, and that's wisdom. That's wisdom. And that's what we have to ask for. Okay. Now, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. Okay. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And automatically you can see King Solomon, he was in that fear, man. You know, he didn't know what to do. You know, as a young child, he didn't know how to run a kingdom. I mean, when he was given uh, to be when he was appointed to be king, you know, it didn't come with no instruction manual. Okay, the only thing that really, well, actually, King David did tell him in chapter 2, verse 3. He said, and I did read it before, but I'm gonna read it again. He said, "And keep the charge of the Lord thy power to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest." Okay, and whatsoever thou turnest thyself. So basically, that's all. I mean, King David just basically put it in a nutshell, man. You know, and just kind of planted that seed in Solomon. So, and to me, man, when I'm reading this verse, man, if I was in King Solomon's shoes and King David told me this in verse 3 of chapter 1 Kings chapter 2 verse 3, I would feel that pressure, man. I would feel that pressure. I'm like, I got to keep these people in line. So, hey, I got to ask the Most High to help me how to run this kingdom. So I'm feeling them. I'm feeling Solomon, man. When David said that to him, I'm like, yeah. King Solomon had no choice but to ask for wisdom, because he had to make sure his people were in line. Let me see. Okay, let me start jump to verse 9. This is King Solomon talking. 1 Kings 3rd chapter, 9th verse. "Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" Okay, and check this out, verse 10. "And the speech pleased the Lord thy power, that Solomon asked this thing." Okay, and Yahweh said unto him, "Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but has asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment." Okay, understanding to discern judgment. Okay, "Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart." And that's what we want, Arthur. We want a wise and discerning heart. Okay, "so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any rise like unto thee." Now, when I read this verse 12, it kind of it popped up in my mind that, okay, this is Yahweh Shai, because it said, "So that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee any arise like unto thee." Okay, and who's coming back today to as the bridegroom to claim this kingdom? Yahweh Shai. So when I read that, I was like, wow. It said, "None like thee before thee, neither after thee." So by process of elimination, you can't go above Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai is like the ultimate. He's the king. Okay, so that was like, yes, This is one of the verses right here that proves that Yahweh Shai is King Solomon. Okay, but let me move on. I'm gonna move on because I know sometimes I get off track. "I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that so that there shall be not any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. That's another verse that proves that that's Yahweh Shai, man, because you can't go above Yahweh Shai. I mean, you know, so I mean, that's just it right there. Okay. But also in this verse, you see that since he asked for a discerning heart, an understanding. Okay, it says, I have given thee a wise and discerning heart. So since he asked, so the Most High gave him wisdom and an understanding heart because he asked for it. It pleased the Most High that King Solomon asked for wisdom. So therefore, since he asked for wisdom, it pleased the Most High. So the Most High said, look, I'm gonna throw you a little something else too, because I'm gonna give you riches, I'm gonna give you honor, and if thou wilt walk in my, this is verse 14. And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thine days. Okay? So if you ask for wisdom and hearken to the laws, well, Salakia. If you honor the laws and statutes, and commandments that the Most High want us to do, your days can be lengthened. Your days can be lengthened. Now, you have some brothers that that die for certain reasons, but if you are what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. Sincere about honoring the laws and statutes, about honoring the Most High, He's gonna look at that, man, and be pleased. Okay. And then it says in verse 15, wait a minute. Yeah, verse 15, and Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. So yeah, man, King Solomon asked for wisdom, and being that he asked for wisdom, it pleased the Most High. Okay, it pleased the Most High, and just imagine, man, when you have wisdom, you shine. Because when I talk to older brothers who are spiritually older in this truth, I be like, bro, let me hook you up with some little something. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the mentality that you have. If you're a spiritual man, that's the mentality that you have when you talk to somebody who's wise. You get all this wisdom and understanding. You just compelled to give them stuff. You just compelled to give them stuff. And later on, that's what happens. As you read in Kings or whatever. King Solomon had gifts, and he just had all kinds of things, man. But the Most High gave him honor. He gave him riches. And all because he asked for a discerning heart to help judge his people. He wanted to be wise. And the Most High, gave him riches. King Solomon could have asked for riches for his enemies to be destroyed or whatever, but nah, he wanted a discerning heart. He wanted to know how to rule. He wanted to know how to rule. Man, wow, man, that's a beautiful chapter right there. And as a Christian, I read it. As a Christian, I knew about it, but when you in this truth, you get a more understanding and a more in-depth understanding of this chapter, man. Chapter 3, 1 Kings chapter 3. But yeah, man, all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Akakadash Barakatah. And Lord willing, man, I'll do another lesson sometime. So, but Shalom, brothers. I hope you were edified, and ask for wisdom, brothers. We need it, especially in these times right now. Knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability in that times, during the times of Jacob's trouble. Okay? Till next time, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Akakadash Barakatah. This is your boy Azar coming at you with another lesson. from the GMS Miami camp. Shalom.